We need to find ways to change our relationship with nature.
To me, rewilding, and I can speak specifically to coastal habitats, means a couple of things. We're trying to restore the natural balance of a habitat or an ecosystem. So we have an understanding of maybe what an ecosystem should look like, and then making decisions to try and get it back to that status. An example in a coastal environment might be a place that was formerly a marsh that's filled with invasive species. Maybe it's been filled in by human activities. It's severely degraded, really heavy human use maybe. I was out at a beach this morning where there were all sorts of paths crisscrossing through a dune where there shouldn't be. So really just overuse, and that brings in invasive species that aren't native to the area.
The Cape Cod National Seashore is a wonderful asset and kind of the flagship of land conservation here on the Cape. But it was very clear to a lot of people working diligently over the past 40 years that that's just not enough. We need open space that is accessible to the population, not getting people in their cars to drive from Falmouth out to Wellfleet to experience nature. We need nature around us. And that's why so many towns have gotten into the act, and nonprofit land trusts, watershed associations, all working together to drive this land conservation movement on the Cape, which has been really, I think, in the forefront in Massachusetts for many years. And I think it's really a result of the anxiety that people either living here or moving here have felt about losing the open space, the natural beauty, the rural landscapes that they came here to appreciate. And I think anxiety stimulates action.
For coastal habitats, we're not necessarily going to pour in a huge amount of time and energy to restoring a place that we think is going to be gone in 5 years. We might look up the river and look to that habitat and see it as a place that we think is going to persist and focus on that, right? Focus on a place that we don't think will be underwater in a couple of years and build resilience there. So I think there's a strategy that comes into projects like this.
Well, I think rewilding is clearly a concept and a theme that will be running through a lot of our land conservation efforts in the 21st century. The reason is that there are places that we can take back. We don't have to accept the hand we've been dealt with development on the Cape. We can take back some certain areas, and there's some wonderful opportunities and examples of that. Rewilding is to me, it's creating either pockets of beauty that can be restored, a naturalized landscape, perhaps not a purely wild landscape, but a more natural landscape, and with a little bit of environmental engineering, perhaps. Certainly these cranberry bogs that are being restored to freshwater marshes. It's a very intricate science to get the water levels right, to get the native species right, but we're seeing remarkable results in very short time.
It's interesting. Whether or not this is helpful, I don't know that I've heard rewilding become an overused term so much as I think it needs to be an adaptable term, because the way we would restore something now, and again, this isn't my area of expertise outside of the beach, the way we would restore something now or rewild something now might be a little bit different knowing what we know about climate change.
Emerson said life is by water courses, and certainly the streams in our valleys that hosted cranberry bogs for the last 150 years, they can be restored and become the arteries for wetland habitats, fish runs, and certainly the ability of waterfowl to sit down and rest as they're migrating. These are a very particular set of circumstances where we now have the know-how to bring back some of these old cranberry bogs into natural freshwater marshes that will benefit a lot more species and not be a monoculture on the landscape.
From the Coastal Waterbird Program's perspective, mostly what we're doing is coastal restoration, and there can be some invasives that do pop up, but I think there are other considerations that probably I don't know about that would come into play for forests, for shrublands, for grasslands, things like that.
Yeah, rewilding in a very local perspective, including in your own yard, is something that I think everybody can give thought to. I think that people can, on a small-scale basis, work to bring back their yards to something that more represents a native Cape Cod forest or meadow. And it doesn't take a lot of money. It takes a little bit of effort, but it's fun, and it gets you out. And we all know if you do a little bit of something every day, you'll feel good about yourself and perhaps feel good about the environment as well.
I think it's important because we need to make best attempts to be good stewards of these habitats. Right now, it's safe to say that every habitat on the planet has had some human impact, right? We're no longer living in a system where things are totally pristine, they've never been touched, and we just need to keep them that way. Really, we have to be good stewards and we have to take action. And when we're thinking about climate change in the face of rewilding, we're building resilience.
Well, I think on the Cape, a lot of people still don't understand the water systems, and we've been trying very hard in the last 50 years to disabuse them of the notion that what we have here is an underground river coming down from New Hampshire. That's not the case. Everything that we do on the land is impacting the groundwater, and everything in the groundwater is affecting not only our drinking water supplies, but our wells and our bays, and it's all related. So land use decisions on a case-by-case basis and on a county-wide basis are affecting the water quality of the waters under our feet. And it is all connected. Water flows from the interior of the Cape towards the coasts. And if it intersects a stream, the stream can become polluted if the land surface is accumulating chemicals. So people, I think, need to realize that the decisions that we make as individuals and as a society on what we do to the land and what we put in the ground is affecting not just their yard, but everybody else's yards as well. And when it gets into the water supply, it's a big deal.
And then there are just social reasons, like as a society, we've sort of collectively decided that we want to keep species around. We want to keep the species around that were here when we came. Just good stewardship. Being a good citizen of the earth, piping plovers, whatever it is, they're inconvenient for certain people in certain ways, but they were here before us. We as a people should do the right thing and make sure there's room for piping plovers, for diamondback terrapins, for horseshoe crabs to still do their thing, because if things are going extinct or locally extirpated because of things that we're doing, we're diminishing the world.
The Mill Creek estuary, nobody even saw that until we took down one of the old nightclubs and motels, and now there's a very creative walking park with observation decks and osprey platforms and the ability to see the estuary from the highway, which was not available for the past 100 years. It's very remarkable and inspiring, I think.
That's one way to look at it, is that we are really battening down the hatches, getting our native species happy, getting our ecosystems happy so they can provide ecosystem services we really want them to. Marsh restoration is a good example because of flooding, because of water purifying, all the things that our marshes do, that our wetlands do. We need them moving into this future.
So some people say, well, don't you have enough open space by now that's been protected on the Cape? We've still developed more land on the Cape than we've protected. And we think the best estimate is that there's only 14% of the landmass still available, either for conservation or for development. We know where the best open space targets are because we've done an incredible amount of mapping. We know where the rare species habitats are. We know where the well fields are to protect. We know where the trails need to be linked. So there's a lot of information that's available to understand what are the most important places still to preserve.
We are inexorably linked with the world around us. And not only in a physical way, that we need our marshes, we need our dunes, we need our forests, we need all of the simplest things like oxygen, right? All of these things that we need from our environment, but also just for our well-being. Like the first thing you said, how would you take care of humans? The first thing that came to my mind was well-being, right? Like we want to be happy, we want to feel fulfilled, we want to feel like we have purpose in our lives. And I think the outdoors, again and again, has been proven to make people feel better.
I think anxiety stimulates action, and the actions result in formation of groups, donors to land trusts, town meeting voters voting to tax themselves to buy important pieces. You think of the Cape Cod Sea Camps here in BREWSTER, 1,500 people coming out to vote unanimously in favor of spending $26 million the town did not have, having to bond it to preserve 127 acres on the bay and the largest pond on Cape Cod. So, I mean, that kind of stimulation to action, I think, it's very inspiring to me, and I think to a lot of other people. People see these examples and they say, we can do it elsewhere too.
I think if we're on the side of nature, we're all on the same side. But I think that's a part of the puzzle is that, I think it's an Edward Abbey quote, but it's something like, we can do, all the work, we can try so hard to protect all these species, and we can give it our all, but we also should take the time to enjoy it, right? We also should take the time to love it, to take the walk, to take the break, to sit in the sun, because those things are, just as important.